All right, so as you have seen, we can find probabilities using our normal distribution in Desmos. And again, we're going to leave this blank if we're just using z-score. So in this case, I'm just going to use a z-score. And so previously, we were finding the area, so the probability that a certain data value falls within standard deviations of the mean. So in this case, we're using z-scores. I know this is x, but we're using z-scores, so we're going to leave this blank. So I'm looking at one standard deviation below and one standard deviation above, and that's 68% of our data that follows your empirical rule. Now, what if I asked you to find the top 10% of that data? So the percentile is like that probability. So I'm going to go over here and select bounds, and notice that my drop down changes, and I can actually type in this area. So I'm going to say 10%, which is 0.1, and I'm going to look to select the right. Let me zoom in on this so you can see the graph better. So the value, or z-score, that represents the top 10% of our data would have to be above 1.28. If I wanted to find, I don't know, let's say the lower 10%, that boundary line or bound would be negative 1.28. Now let's do, let me leave it as left. Let's do 90%. So notice that 90% of the data is less than or equal to 1.28 standard deviations above the mean. Okay. Another way to do this is if you're given the mean and standard deviation. So let's look at a mean of 500, standard deviation of 100. And again, I'm going to zoom in on this so that you get a better judgment of that. And I want to find what data value represents the top 25%. So right now that's bottom. Top 25%, the value, the actual raw score, would be 567.4 or 567. And that would represent the minimum score needed to achieve being in the top 25%. And so again, you can kind of play around with these. If I wanted to see bottom 25%, I would select left, and that would give me 432.6 as that value. Okay.